Chapter 12, Session Number 3. The Song of Dissonance. Ben's eyes fluttered open to the rhythmic beeping of a heart monitor and the sterile white ceiling of the on-site infirmary. He was dazed, his mind a whirlwind of conflicting timelines. He rolled his head on the pillow. The crisp, clean sheets, the IV drip in his arm. This was his world, his time. He was back. He swung his legs out of bed, ripping the sensors from his chest. A medic rushed in, but Ben waved him off, his mind already racing far ahead of his still recovering body. He found a cup, made a coffee that was mostly a dark sludge, and sat on the steps outside the infirmary, contemplating the impossible things he had witnessed. The sun was just beginning to dilute the darkness of the pre-dawn sky. That's strange, he thought, the memory of the pristine Giza Plateau vivid in his mind. I don't recall seeing any hieroglyphs. He leaned forward, flipping through his mental files. The pyramid he saw was a clean, functioning machine. The hieroglyphs, the stories, they must have come later. They weren't a history. They were a distorted echo. The sun was up. Ben was fully awake. He strode directly to the command center. Keats, he said, walking in. How are you doing on this glorious morning? I am functioning at 98.7% efficiency, Ben. I see you are in high spirits, the AI replied. Which is statistically improbable, given your recent cardiovascular and neurological trauma. Ben grinned. Pull up my private research file on Giza. I need to double check something. Keats instantly filled the wall monitors with images. Here, and here, Ben said, pointing. These are the differences. The structure from Anya's time. It was pure, unadorned. The Giza necropolis, the causeways, the smaller temples, they weren't there. And what happened to the machines? The flying objects, the tools, the scientists? He paused, his face hardening with resolve. I have to go back in. At that moment, Kalen and Inanna entered the room, halting abruptly when they caught sight of him. Ben? Kalen spoke, her voice a mix of relief and frustration. You should be under observation. You disappeared for nearly 3 hours this time. What occurred in there? Explain. Ben felt a surge of adrenaline, the fragmented truths fighting to come out. The people, he said, his voice low and intense. The people who built the pyramids. They arrived in that ship. Inanna gasped, taking a step forward. Pyramids? Plural? What did you see? Kalen cut her off. Ben, I need something concrete. I just got word about the agency monitoring us. It's a state-backed Chinese consortium. They've formally requested a joint venture. It's a polite way of saying, let us in, or we'll come in anyway. Your visions are fascinating, but I need progress I can report to my board to keep them at bay. Ben pointed a shaking finger at the screens. Progress? Kalen, look! Our entire understanding of history is wrong. They use the pyramids, in conjunction with other sites around the globe, to stabilize the planet's core. A global resonance network. The pieces were clicking into place in his mind. My God! It's revolutionary! It changes everything! He couldn't wait. Keats, prep the interface. I'm heading back to the ship. He stood up, grabbing a jacket. Sorry, ladies. I know you need details, but we have a universe to solve and investors to satisfy. As he walked out, he paused and looked at Kalen. And call this number, he said, tapping a contact into her tablet. Dr. Alistair Finch. He's my former mentor, the world's leading physicist in quantum resonance. Tell him you have an anomaly that defies conventional explanation. Recruit him, but don't mention my name. He gave her a quick wink and was gone. At the entrance to the shaft, a new formidable structure blocked his path. A solid black cube of alien looking material with a single seamless door. Added security, Kalen explained, catching up to him. Here, this is your pass. She handed him a badge with a QR code. Ben held the badge to the scanner. With a soft hiss of decompressing air, the seamless door slid open. The chaotic noise of the dig site, the generators, the distant shouts, the wind, was instantly cut off, replaced by a low, clean hum. A wave of cool, filtered air, smelling faintly of ozone and sterile electronics, washed over him, a stark contrast to the oppressive desert heat he'd left behind. The raw, dusty shaft had been transformed into a proper antechamber. Soft, indirect lighting now lined the ladder, illuminating a space that felt less like an excavation and more like the entrance to a sacred, silent laboratory. He descended into the now familiar shaft, the controlled environment heightening his sense of anticipation. He entered the cockpit, the cool, humming silence embracing him. He pulled the stone from its case and paused, lowering it slowly toward the socket. Click. It snapped into place. Kayland and Inanna, familiar with the process, stood just outside the ship, observing the smooth door as it sealed shut with a gentle hiss. Ben's head went limp, dropping back into the headrest. He opened his eyes in the same empty, dark space. Welcome back, descendant. The deep, soothing voice of the sentinel filled his mind. Greetings, Ben thought back. Do you have a name? I am a terminal of the Central Archive. The archive's designation is Library of Knowledge. You may call me Sentinel. Sentinel? I have so many questions. I don't even know where to begin. That is the nature of this interface. Your genetic marker grants you access. Your questions provide the search parameters. Let us begin with your most immediate query, the one that burns behind your thoughts. The peak and the precipice. The darkness of the interface dissolved. Ben found himself standing on the Giza Plateau once more, but the world felt different. The air, though still clean, had a weight to it, a subtle tension that was absent in the Golden Age. He looked down. He was in a new body, a man's this time, tall and strong. The sentinel's voice was a soft whisper in his mind. 10,000 years have passed since planetary harmony was achieved. The population has grown. The mission continues. But consciousness, descendant, is never static. Malak, come see, a man from a nearby crowd called out. Ben felt his host body turn. Ben was in Orin, and Orin was approaching the crowd, gathering at the foot of the gleaming pyramid. At the center stood a man who commanded attention, not through force, but through a profound, sorrowful stillness. Malak. Malak stepped forward. His voice was calm, but it carried like thunder. Brothers and sisters, he began, we have been given everything. No hunger, no disease, no war. We live in balance. We follow the path laid for us by the Library of Knowledge. And still, I ask you, is this life? Or is it merely order pretending to be meaning? A murmur rippled through the crowd. Some shifted uncomfortably, others leaned in, their faces a mixture of fascination and fear. Ben, as Orin, felt a jolt. The question was a heresy he had never dared to form. We were seated here to stabilize this world, Malik continued, his voice resonating with a deep sincerity. But what is the difference between a machine that follows its programming and a human who never questions it? Are we explorers or merely executors? The ripple became a wave. These words were dangerous. They were true. They call our world a utopia, but a utopia without longing is silence. Without wonder, it is stillness. Without risk, it is nothing at all. His voice dropped, becoming intimate, drawing them closer. Have you ever looked into the night sky and wondered why it felt empty? Not because it was dark, but because we had no questions left to ask. My God, Ben thought, his modern secular mind reeling. He's giving them back the gift of doubt. A woman stepped forward, her face earnest. You speak of feeling, of failing, she said. But what if we lose the mission? What if we forget why we came here? What if we become blind again? Moloch offered her a gentle, knowing smile. Then perhaps, sister, blindness will teach us to see differently. And perhaps, after we lose our way, he looked up at the pyramid's glowing capstone, we will find ourselves again, not as servants of knowledge, but as its authors. That night, the scene shifted. Ben was with Orin as he and a small group approached Malik's dwelling, a sleek, high-tech cabin whose walls were a single, massive display screen, showing breathtaking scenes of a world that was not Earth. The Sentinel will not understand our feelings, Malik said to the gathered supporters. It ensures alignment. It ensures peace. But it cannot understand our desire to be beautifully imperfect. We must make a change, and that change begins by disrupting the network. He pointed to the wall, which now showed an aerial view of the Giza Plateau. We start here. The tools that built this world, he said, gesturing to a nearby storage depot, will be the tools that set us free from it. Ben, the silent observer, felt a sense of profound tragedy. Why? He projected to the Sentinel. Why can't they coexist? Those who want the mission and those who want something else. The Sentinel did not answer directly. Instead, the scene of Malik's followers shifted, and Ben was plunged into a montage of daily life in this utopia. He saw a couple resolving a disagreement with flawless logic, their faces serene, their voices never rising. There was no passion, no fire, no messy, beautiful anger. He saw an artist create a sculpture of perfect, intricate geometry, but it was cold, sterile, and evoked no emotion. He saw children playing a game with complex rules and quiet efficiency, but he heard no chaotic, joyous laughter, no arguments over who was winning. It was a world without suffering, but also without spark, a world without longing, and therefore without art, a world without risk, and therefore without meaning. Ben felt a profound unease, a deep existential chill. This wasn't life. It was a beautiful, silent, and benevolent prison. My God, Ben thought, the realization hitting him with the force of a physical blow. They aren't trying to destroy the world, they're trying to make it feel alive. He finally understood. The Sentinel's voice returned. Its tone resonated with the terrible truth Ben had just uncovered. Meaning arises from struggle. Discovery without curiosity is merely obedience. You now perceive the logic of the fracture. Malak was not a heretic descendant. He was a prophet of personal truth, a force more powerful than any machine. The Great Fracture. The connection solidified. Ben's consciousness, steadied by the stone, plunged back into the Sentinel's archive. The Giza Plateau materialized around him, but the serene harmony of the Golden Age was gone. The air was thick with a tension that felt like static electricity against the skin. He was looking through the eyes of a woman, her silver tunic worn, her face etched with exhaustion. Dream, the Sentinel's voice identified her. A descendant in your bloodline, 7 generations removed from Anya. She occupied the same role, a conduit for the planetary network. From the south, a group approached, not with reverence, but with a defiant energy. They were led by Malik. He no longer looked like a prophet. He looked like a general. Behind him, his followers, the rebels, held the tools of creation, now repurposed for disruption. Harmonic trowels, graviton anchors, and the powerful lithozone cutting tools. We don't need the machines anymore, Malik's voice thundered across the plateau. We have our own minds, our own will. Why should we serve a mission we never chose? His followers roared their approval. One of them slammed a graviton anchor against the base of the Great Pyramid. The machine pulsed violently, not in harmony, but in a chaotic, angry feedback loop. The gleaming white casing stones flickered erratically. Caution! The Sentinel's voice cut through the noise, a calm alarm in Ben's mind. Planetary field disturbance detected. Core resonance unstable. Dream ran toward the maestro, the lead engineer. Shut it down! Sever the link before the damage cascades through the entire network. No! Malik countered, raising a device that crackled with energy. If we can control it, we can shape our own world. He aimed the device, a plasma disruptor, at the pyramid's peak. A piercing shriek tore through the air. The capstone flared white hot. Then, with a sickening crack, it fractured. A shockwave of pure force rolled outward. Ben felt it in his own chest. The pyramid, the heart of the world, went silent. A wound he felt in his very soul. The war had begun. The Sentinel's vision pulled Ben across the globe, showing him the tragic, cascading failure of the network. He stood before the great zigzag walls of Sashayahuaman, watching in horror as rebels used harmonic trowels to destabilize the molecular bonds of the perfect interlocking stones. With a deep, mournful groan, a titan-sized block split in two and crashed to the ground. The throat chakra was meant to transmit truth, the sentinel lamented. Now it speaks only silence. The vision shifted. He was in the Andes. A shockwave rippled through Machu Picchu. A rogue faction, having seized a control node, was amplifying energy chaotically. The protective dome over the city flickered and burst. Unnatural violet lightning arced through the sky as entire sections of the city levitated briefly, then crashed into ruin. The heart chakra is damaged. Emotional coherence is lost. So that's why we feel so disconnected, Ben thought, a profound, species wide sorrow washing over him. He was at Baalbek. Rebels had turned a lithozone tool on one of the great pillars. The stone did not explode, it melted, sagging inward like wax as the very laws of matter were undone. He saw the ruins of Punku, a graveyard of shattered precision cut stones, a testament to rebels who tried to build without understanding. He saw Stonehenge, its perfect circle broken, stones toppled by a field disruptor, its creative energy gone, leaving behind only an echo of death. Finally, he was at Gobekli Tepe, the crown chakra of the planet. He witnessed the final desperate act of a loyalist scientist, sending one last signal to the stars before the rebels unleashed their weapons. A silent explosion of light, and the link to the universal intelligence went dark. The vision pulled back, showing Ben the final days. The conflict was unwinnable. To fight back, the Loyalists would have to use the network as a weapon, destroying the very planet they had healed. He stood with Dream and the Maestro before a final console inside the now darkened pyramid. If we sever the final connection, the Maestro said, his voice heavy with grief, we can stop the cascade. But it means leaving everything behind. The mission is over. Dream looked up, not at the console, but as if to the sky itself, where the evacuation fleet was waiting. Do it, she whispered. The Maestro tapped the command. At Giza, 3 massive granite blocks slid into place, sealing the ascending passage forever. At Gobekli Tepe, a final command triggered localized landslides, burying the sacred site to protect it from further desecration. The network was dark. The connection was severed. The vision showed Ben the great ships rising, leaving a planet now ruled by fractured tribes of their own people, left with broken tools and forgotten science. And he saw the last tragedy. One ship, the Sentinel's vessel, damaged in the final power surge, falling from the sky to crash into a lonely valley. The last library, buried and waiting. The Sentinel's voice, deep and deliberate, resonated profoundly within Ben, saying, Mass must vibrate, form must melody, stone must move to the observer's will. The one who holds the tone molds the world. And now he understands what happened after the fall. They kept the stones, but lost the song. Overwhelmed to the core, his very being quaking with revelation, Ben's consciousness slammed back into reality. He found himself once again in the dim confines of the underground shaft, his heart pounding in his chest. Kalen and Dinana dashed to his side the instant the ship's door burst open, their faces etched with concern. His voice escaped as a guttural rasp, a whisper that trembled with the weight of 50,000 years of grief and awe, each word heavy with the burden of ancient knowledge. I saw it, he gasped. I saw us lose everything. He paused, his eyes wide with the final terrible understanding. Not because we failed, but because we chose to feel. And with the weight of a secret as old as civilization itself resting on his soul, his eyes fluttered shut, drifting into a sleep deep and exhausted, as if he had finally found the truth he had been seeking his entire life.